Mountains taller, problems smaller, living light, light for flight, breathing smooth, anticipating, escalating, laughing days, the happy way, floating on through. Far out in the clouds above, sailing along with the greatest love. I'm setting out on a brand new life. It's very nice, so very nice, living in a smile.
So I invite you now to take a deep breath in, relaxing around that breath and simply allowing yourself to relax more fully and deeply now, with a deep breath in and a deep breath out, allowing yourself to let go of any residual tension or stress. And as you do, simply allow yourself to feel the sweet flow of divine life now, all around, from an infinite source, coming through you with your next deep breath in. And allow that life that is directed by divine intelligence, powered by divine love, to infill you, to bring balance, strength, and power into every part of your physical being, establishing balance and harmony, right function in every part of your being. Your body is the perfect vessel for the outpicturing of your soul, necessary for this life. We bless it and allow the vibration of life to be felt now. And with another deep breath in, draw in divine love into your heart. Allow that love that comes from an infinite source, an infinite love, to infill you, to melt away resentments, unforgiveness for self or others, to be replaced by healing love, greater compassion, greater understanding, greater acceptance. Allow that love now to grow and to infill you and to move past the limits of your physical being into the space around you, such that divine love becomes a gentle embrace, gentle peace. And with another deep breath in, draw in divine light into your mind. Allow divine light now to illumine and to melt away negative thinking or illusions, misunderstandings. Let that light be the light of truth that allows you to see with clarity the truth beneath conditions, the way things really are, and to see the light that is shed upon the path in front of you, that you know what are your steps to take, just the right way, just the right time. Allow your wisdom and guidance to be activated by this divine light now. And with another deep breath in, let us now enter into the inner sanctuary of our hearts, the center of our being. And in this sanctuary, let us now sit, wait, and listen for the still, small voice for God that speaks in the depths of us, in the silence. Now. Thank you, Blessed Spirit. We do feel the full presence. We do feel the love. We do know that we have been given gifts in quiet. Perhaps an insight or idea, a new way of seeing, perhaps a sense of well-being, of peace. Whatever we know we have received in the quiet, let us bring it back with us into this time and into this place. And let us know that many more gifts have been given in this time, such that in the coming hours and days, in times of struggle or challenge, they will be revealed as needed, as right idea, right word, right action to take in right time. For we are never alone, always connected, always loved. And as we open ourselves to these gifts, empowered to use them. And so from this place, we feel our deep gratitude now and lift up with gratitude in all gifts received and those still on their way to us from the heart of God as we say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. So we continue our series on encounters with Jesus. These are the stories that are told about Jesus, the stories that Jesus himself told, the teachings that he gave, and sometimes it's the events of his life that are themselves a teaching. And so today we are joining the kids in exploring one particular parable of Jesus, one familiar to, I'm sure, most, if not every one of you. You probably know it as the prodigal son. The story of the prodigal son. But in the Bible, a lot of times it's alluded to in a little different way. So if you search and look for the prodigal son, sometimes you don't really find that because that's not the story Jesus told exactly. It's sort of an interpretation we've made about it. The actual way it's often shown or displayed is father and two sons, because that's how Jesus starts off his parable. So listen. Then Jesus said there was a man who had two sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me." So let me just pause for a moment. Because in that moment, this son, this younger son, has actually committed, I would say it's more than just impropriety. He has basically, in his father's face, said, "You know what, old man, I can't wait for you to die, to give me my share of the property. I want it now. I got stuff to do. I got big plans. I got places to go, things to see." And so the father does not respond the way you or I might have done. Instead, it says the very next line, so he divided his property between them. Now, in Middle Eastern tradition, I've heard Middle Eastern teachers, Bible scholars, talk about this particular piece right here. Because where I just said Jesus alludes to the story of the parable of the father and two sons. In Middle Eastern tradition, it would also be described as the parable of the foolish father, because he doesn't assert himself. He doesn't re-educate his son to be back in alignment with what is propriety, what is the right way to do it. Instead, he doesn't protest. He just divides his property between his two sons. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant country. And there he squandered his property in dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout the country he was living in, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything. Now this young man, however long this adventure has transpired, who used up every penny and got taken advantage of in every way along the way of life, out in the open, out in another country, has found himself not just destitute, not just hungry, not just alone, but in the most shameful place for a young Jewish young man to be found, which is in service to unclean pigs, as in the tradition in which he was raised. This is just to underscore how far he had fallen, that he was actually jealous of the food given to the pigs because his own stomach was empty. And so in that place, sometimes what we refer to as hitting bottom, the very next line says this: "But when he came to himself, he said," I'm going to pause right there. He came to himself. In this low place in his life, he had an awakening. He had a reframe. He had a recontext of his situation, of who he was, of his life. He came to himself. He discovered something about himself that even in this extremity may possibly still be true about him. He came to himself. I love this. He said, "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough to spare? But here I am, dying of hunger. I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to them, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.' So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him, and it says he was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father interrupted him and said, 'Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put on him a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And get the fatted calf and go kill it now, and let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate." Now here's the young man who has really done what would be an unforgivable thing in many's eyes. It would be a hard thing to get over. A father who really had turned loose of his son, thought he had lost him forever, thought he would never see him again, and now sees him walking down the road, cannot restrain his love. We can understand that as parents. We can understand that love is really an unconditional love. Yes, there's a human aspect to it, and there's some straightening out that needs to happen, and some talking that's going to happen. But in the moment, the rejoicing is authentic. The love is all-inclusive. It doesn't matter what all has happened. We'll figure all that stuff out right now. You're home. and the love is there. And they begin to celebrate. And even though the young son was prepared to not reestablish himself as worthy of being called a son for what he had done, the father reestablished him and put him in the right place, put him back in his place. Now we come to the elder son. Now the elder son was in the field. And when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. This Tuesday afternoon, what's all that going on? He called one of the slaves and asked what was going on, and he replied, "Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf because he's got him back safe and sound." Then he became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him. But he answered his father, "Listen, for all these years, I have been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command, not once. Yet you have never given me even a young goat so that I may celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours comes back, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him." Then the father said to him, "Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice because this brother of yours, he was dead and has come back to life. He was lost and has been found." I think what this story reveals more than what happened in the younger son's life and the trajectory of his awakening and his coming back, that his journey and his adventure and his experience creates ripple effects in the rest of the family. Because what we hear from the elder brother is that he has actually, all this time, been working up a resentment, hasn't he? I have worked like a slave for you. I have done everything that was expected of me. And this son you gave him half of everything that we have worked for. And he went off and he blew it in the worst possible way in your face. And yet he comes home and you celebrate him. And I don't get so much as a thank you. I don't get anything to celebrate with my friends. You see, the thing of it is that he thought all this time that he was in service to his father, that he was feeling this resentment building and growing and serving his father on every whim and being the good one, being the one who took care of everything, being the one who did everything that was needed. Does this ring a bell for anybody? Where the younger son who took the profit of all of that, split it in half and took off with it and wasted it. There's a lot of resentment. There's a lot of forgiving to do in there someplace. And it's interesting to see how this falls back into his life, because what the father is surprised by is that he ever believed that his son was working for him. He was actually working for his own future, because everything I have is yours. It has always been that way. Whatever profit we have shared, whatever profit is your future. You've invested in yourself, because all I have is yours already. You're always with me. You always have my love. You always have my support. It is the younger son who went away and had to discover it for himself. We're affected by everyone that we're in relationship with. It's always an opportunity for us to grow, no matter what choices are made around us that we didn't really get to make or influence, perhaps, but are still living with, still affected by. And this opportunity to take what is a transformative experience for one person becomes an opportunity for growth, a free choice, free will choice, how we view it, because the younger son changed and grew from his mistakes. Now, some of us sitting here have been that person in your family, the one who sort of went out, sort of went away from the rest, where they might really feel like they've gone beyond the culture of the home in which they were lived, and they've received a lot of judgment from that. They might have even gone out, you might have even gone out, and your life kind of turned upside down, kind of, you know, everything fell out of the cart, and you had to put it back together. Maybe you had to come back home for a bit. Maybe that's true in your family. Somebody in your family has done that. Whatever it is, we know that there is always this opportunity for how do we receive that? How do we deal with that? Whether it's us and finding a way to be worthy enough to return. The young son had a plan. He wasn't going to come back as a full-fledged son. He was going to come back as a servant because he felt himself unworthy. It was his father's love that reestablished where he was. But he already had humility of the heart. He did not come back the same son who left. He had to change. Steve Maraboli says, don't confuse poor decision-making with destiny. Own your mistakes. It's okay. We all make them. Learn from them so they can empower you. Don't blame circumstances when you have put yourself in positions that made you vulnerable, made you lose, have been a challenge for you. These are all the things from which we grow. And notice that the father remained loving, no matter the choices of either son. He didn't withdraw his love from the younger son when he showed back up. He met him on the road, rejoiced. And the older son, who surprised him, I guess, by his show of anger and upset, and yet didn't chastise him either, embraced him and said, here's the reality. You've always been here. You're always a part of me. You have all my love, unreserved, unconditional, full of compassion. All that I have is yours. So the father's the one who remains unchanged. The younger son goes, has an awakening, and comes back changed, we believe, potentially for the rest of his life. The compassion of the father in this story can look like foolishness, but it is actually a channel for something powerful and transforming, an opportunity to be restored. Karen Valentine shares a story about compassion. She says, I was irritable. My 2 boys were annoying me as I tried to get them ready for school. They played when they should have been getting dressed, dragged through breakfast as they talked more than they chewed, and had a sword fight with their toothbrushes instead of brushing their teeth. Hurry up, I shouted through each task. I nagged as I pointed to their shoes, mumbled under my breath as we walked to the elevator, and then plodded through the gray morning to school. I couldn't wait to get there. I needed to be child-free, and the sooner we got there, the sooner that would happen. I see some smiles out there. Some people recognize that. We arrived. I shooed them through the gate to the school entrance without my customary kiss and hug. My older son, Brandon, got to the door, but then turned back to give me a hug. Then he stopped my younger son, Tyler, in his tracks, whispered in his ear. What are you doing? I shouted. You're late. Get inside. Tyler walked back to me with that obedient little brother mug on his face, and that's when I realized what Brandon was telling him to do. Go hug Mom. My heart crumbled. I didn't deserve my son's hugs or their compassion, but I humbly accepted the love, the grace, and the lesson my sons extended to me that day. Unconditional love is a gift through every willing heart. It is available no matter where we are in our lives, no matter what stage of life, no matter what transgressions have occurred, no matter what hurts or wounds we have encountered, whatever it is that we carry. It is always an opportunity for us to learn compassion for ourselves as well as for others. It goes both ways. And that divine love that flows through us is available in infinite quantity, regardless of context, regardless of conditions. It is only measured by the willingness of the heart to expand and to share, to be willing to entertain the notion that I can let go and I can be loved or extend love, that I can forgive. I will tell you in these dynamics with families, and I've said this many times here, when I have been in counseling with different individuals, I will meet somebody, say in roughly middle age, that will come in usually with their problem about their son or daughter who they are struggling in their relationship with, and how that person describes them, all the adjectives they use to describe them, and how challenging it's been because you're not any of those things, because you did this and you did that and you did that for them, and you made all these changes in your life just for them, and they still just can't get along. They just can't understand. They can't penetrate. And so I'll ask, what kind of relationship did you have with your parent? Oh, well, that's a different story. And so they'll start telling me all the sins of the father or the mother or all the things that they've done. And remarkably, I kid you not, invariably, they will use the same adjectives. My parent, well, she was this way or that way, or my father always never did. Oh. And I'll suddenly point that out to them. And I said, you have become the relationship that you had with your parent, you are having that unconsciously with your child. And that the healing isn't with your child, but with your parent. Living or dead, you can heal that relationship by forgiving them, by understanding now what it feels like to be them, because you have become them. Inadvertently. Actually, on purpose, trying to go the exact opposite. You have inadvertently become created the exact circumstance and conditions that you were really, in your innocence and desire to give love, you were actually perpetrating the same thing, different ways, the same experience. And so the forgiveness has to happen in your life first, that you become the released one. And when you become released, the line love comes untwisted in its expression, and it becomes the blessing you always wanted it to be. It will change all of your relationships. It is phenomenal, and it is true. Nicholas Sparks says, my wife, my family, my friends, they've all taught me things about love and what that emotion really means. In a nutshell, loving someone is about giving, not receiving. It's not about what they did or what they gave you or how much they gave you or how little they gave you. It is always about how much do we give in response? How much have we received to give? How much of it are we able to now turn around and give as a form of love? And the third party in this original parable, the older son, he has the opportunity to forgive both his father and his brother. That's his opportunity. To forgive his brother who didn't do what he might have wanted to do. We don't know about the inner psyche, but we can imagine how much he judged that young son, not only taking half the property with him, but how jealous he may have been that he had the courage to step out into the bigger world and try his hand at it. And all this comes back to is also, how is it that he can forgive his father for welcoming him back? Because the truth is, in some ways, he's really angry at himself for not having realized that all along the door was open for him, and that what he left was unconditional love, and what would always be waiting for him would be unconditional love on the return, no matter what. I will leave you with one line, a quote. You'll find it on the back of this, that has really become a truthism that I believe. We are doomed to become what we refuse to forgive. And so I hate to use that as your closing, but I want you to know that the power to forgive is always in our hands. That's the good news. You're not condemned by circumstances or by the mistakes of others or by the incapacity of others or the unskilled abilities of others in your life. It is always your opportunity, always ours, to accept the love, however it comes, wherever it is, and to recognize that in our hands is the opportunity to make the change we wish to see. We are empowered to do that, and this is our great blessing. And may this be the reminder to you that we do everything as community, always connected heart to heart, with everyone in your relationships, wherever it is that you can find capacity to forgive and let go, and allow unconditional love to bless you first, and then them. And so it is. God bless you all.